that this marks the end of, of capitalism. I'm sorry, that is not the case. It may be going dormant for a little while to rationalize these massive bailouts, but it will come roaring back, and the crisis that is being deepened right now through these bailouts will be invoked for even more radical deregulation, privatization, tax cuts, and so on.
It seems clearly, Naomi Klein, what's needed, a key ingredient here, is speed. You see this happen right after 9/11 with the USA Patriot Act being pushed through. You saw it with the vote in October of 2002 for the invasion of Iraq. At speed and the idea of an imminent threat. And then, of course, this week, it's not only about passing this legislation, but it is passing it by Friday.
Absolutely. And a lot of people have even described this Paulson plan as an economic Patriot Act. One of the mistakes that I think they made, honestly, Amy, is how short it is. It's just 3 pages, which means, usually these pieces of legislation are much longer. So people don't even bother reading them in that moment of extortion. Pass it now or else the sky falls in. So in this case, I think they made a miscalculation. There was an interesting article in Time that just came out where they actually say that they have been working. This is the quote. It says Paulson and his team have been working on this proposal for more than 6 months. So it's quite surprising that it is as pared down as it is. It's 3 pages. And the craziest thing has happened. People have read it. Regular people have read it. It doesn't take that much time. You read Section 8, which is just so stunning, just so bold in its demand for total and complete impunity. And that's really what's getting in their way is people are reading this text and they're frankly shocked by it. We heard Henry Paulson say that he thought it would have been presumptuous to put in clauses calling for regulation. This is absolute nonsense. Section 2 of this same document talks about how they have the right to hire contractors to administer this huge operation, and we know that that means contracting with some of the very firms who are going to be bailed out. And then it says that they would be contracting them without regard to any other provision of law regarding public contracts. Amy, that is just that's Iraq levels of impunity, or even more. I mean, basically what they're saying is that we want to be able to contract with companies, but exempt those companies from the existing laws that bar conflict of interest, that have whistleblowing laws. I mean, the laws exist on the books, and they are actively excluding these contracts from those laws. So the idea that they didn't want to be presumptuous is complete nonsense. They are being extremely presumptuous because they are actively excluding these contractors, these would-be contractors, from existing oversight. We have to be very clear about that.
It's interesting who Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson is. Served as an assistant to Richard Nixon's assistant, John Ehrlichman, and moved right from there to Goldman Sachs, then became head of it when, well, the now Senator and then Governor Corzine left Goldman Sachs.
Amy, I don't think we can stress this enough. Henry Paulson is one of the key people, the top people responsible for creating the crisis that he is now claiming he will solve. And this is, if we think about the 9/11 analogy and, the state of shock that Americans were in after 9/11 and the emergence of Rudy Giuliani as the savior. And people have so much regret about that. And, in the book I write about this as the state of regression that we go into when we're frightened. And I think Henry Paulson has really been cast in this role as an economic Rudy Giuliani, saving the day, impartial, bipartisan, a strong leader. I found this article in Business Week that ran when Paulson was appointed to the Treasury. And I just want to read you one sentence because I think it's all we need to know about Henry Paulson. This is from Business Week when he got the appointment as Treasury Secretary in 2006. So the headline of the article is "Mr. Risk Goes to Washington." It says, think of of Paulson as Mr. Risk. He's one of the key architects of a more daring Wall Street, where securities firms are taking greater and greater chances in pursuit of profits. By some key measures, the securities industry is more leveraged now than it was at the height of the 1990s boom. Then it goes on to say that when Paulson took over Goldman Sachs in 1999, they had $20 billion in debts. When he in these high risk gambles, when he left, they had $100 billion, which means he took their risk level from $20 billion to $100 billion. So it is absolutely no exaggeration to say that Henry Paulson, far from speaking for Main Street, is actually bailing out his colleagues for some of the very debts that he himself accumulated. This is an extraordinary conflict of interest.
And then, of course, there's the question of his own interests in Goldman Sachs today.
Well, allegedly he divested from the company, so I can't comment on that, but I think there's some good investigation to be done.
Naomi Klein, I want to thank you for being with us, award-winning journalist, syndicated columnist, author of the best-selling book, The Shock Doctrine, The Rise of Disaster Capitalism. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. As Congress debates the bailing out of the wealthiest corporations in America, what about those at the other end? How is it that the gap between the rich and poor here in the United States is the highest ever recorded and higher than in every other wealthy industrialized nation?